Okay, how's it going, everybody? We're going to be looking at the part 2 of the Biology of Psychology Unit 1 for AP Psychology. So our previous video, we went into the different parts of the biological aspects of the field. We looked at brain parts, brain lobes, we looked at different parts of the nervous system and parts of the basic building blocks, which are the neuron cells. We've looked at neurotransmitters and hormones, and we looked at different types of medical scans. But today, we're going to be looking at sleep, dreams, and sleep disorders. This is going to be a good chunk, a good portion of the AP exam as well for the biological unit. So without further ado, let's get started. First things first, what is sleep? Sleep is the natural state of lost consciousness. What that means is it's not like being, knocked out or under anesthesia or anything like that, or in a coma. This is when the body naturally kind of shuts down that consciousness to recover and repair itself, which what we call sleep. The circadian rhythm is our sleep clock. We have this biological clock inside our body where our body is used to the schedule and routine of waking up at a certain hour and going to bed at a certain hour. So with the circadian rhythm, that is our body's natural sleep cycle. Typically, when we wake up, our body begins to ramp us up for that. That's why we might wake up a little bit around the same time, even on the weekends or days off, for example. Some things that can kind of mess it up, though, are things like shift work. So what shift work is when your sleep schedule or your work schedule is inconsistent. So some nights you might go to bed at 8 p.m. and then other nights you work until 2 a.m. This can mess up your entire circadian rhythm, which can cause different sleep issues while you're trying to get a balanced sleep routine and pattern. Now, with the circadian rhythm, when you're getting ready for bed, melatonin is released. Melatonin is a chemical that is released that helps us fall asleep. So it's kind of based on that sleep cycle. Now, if we have shift work and an inconsistent sleep schedule, our body doesn't know when to release melatonin, and that can cause things like jet lag and different issues like that. Now, what's the point of sleep in the first place? Well, first thing is it helps rebuild the body. It kind of fixes and nourishes the cells and physically helps out with any injuries the body might have. It also helps us with kind of storing or consolidating is another word for the memories that we have throughout the day, putting those into the long term of our mind. We also recharge the body physically as well as mentally. And then evolutionary perspective, it helps protect us from different types of predators. So for example, if you're laying down sleeping, motionless, is less likely for a predator to detect you and try to eat you, for example, based on our ancestors for evolutionary perspective. Now we have a lot when it comes to the sleep cycle, but we're going to kind of burn through this pretty fast. When we are awake, if we have an EEG that is connected to us, remember an EEG from the last video is a scan that looks at the electrical brain waves of the body. When we're awake, we have beta waves. So we have these very active beta waves going on. And then when we're relaxed and drowsy, those beta waves turn into alpha waves. Still very similar, but a little bit more relaxed when it comes to the wave pattern of them. Then once we finally get into this part, we're actually getting into the true stages of sleep. Now the sleep cycle has 4 major stages: non-REM 1, 2, and 3, and then the dream state, which is REM. But to start about, we're going to go at the first stage right now of non-REM. So in this 90-minute cycle, stage 1 is a light sleep. We have beta waves going on the EEG. Our body is slowly falling into kind of the subconscious sleep. Now we have what's called hypnagogic sensations. This is a falling or a jerk feeling where our body feels like it is either literally falling in the seat or kind of a jolt of energy that goes through our body. This is our body kind of balancing that conscious and unconscious state. Stage 2 is a moderate sleep. We're finally getting into more relaxed ways, but we do have a little bit of abnormalities on these EEGs. So we switch from beta waves at this time to what we look at as theta waves. Think of the T as the middle because it's kind of in one of those middle stages. Now we have something called sleep spindles and K complex. What this means is if you look over here on this section, we have these very relaxed waves. They're a little bit wider than what happens when we're awake, for example. But then we have these giant kind of spikes. Now these giant spikes right here, these are the K complexes, the sleep spindles. So we might have a sleep spindle like this where we have a dense kind of area of waves, and then these K complexes, which are these giant jumps and kind of skips when it comes to our EEGs. Now stage 3, we're in the deep sleep. This is when our body is extremely relaxed and we are fully out. Think of D for delta waves, D for deep sleep. The EEG detects these very long and kind of relaxed waves that we can see right here. Now this is where our body gets restored. We might have somnambulism, which is sleepwalking, for example, night terrors, and different types of kind of relaxation during this time period. very critical for restoring the body and the healing process. Now we go into stage 4, which is the first of the non-REMs. This is REM. So with the REM stage, which is rapid eye movement, it's also called the paradoxical sleep. This means that this is where we dream. So the dreaming state. This is the part of our entire sleep cycle where we actually have active dreams. Now, if you look at all these EEGs, we start very active and we slowly begin to relax, right? We have a couple little skips in stage 2. But once we get to stage 3, it's very relaxed and chilled out. But then when we go to REM, we have that activity ramp back up. So the brain activates and kind of wakes back up again and helps us kind of form these dreams that we have. We go from the deep, relaxed delta waves back to the very active beta waves of the REM stage. So this is the part of sleep where you might have sleep paralysis or dreams, for example. All right. As we look at different types of sleep disorders, if you have an inactive or if you have a very inconsistent sleep cycle, you can have minor disturbances like exhaustion, agitation, or even some types of illnesses like colds or flus, for example. But if you have a extremely chronic, disruption of sleep, it could be one of these sleep disorders. The first one is REM rebound. This is when you are not getting full sleeps and going into that REM stage for dreaming, and your body has to catch up on all these missed dreams. So your sleep might now be more extended, and you might have more vivid dreams during this time because it's rebounding, catching up to all of that missed REM sleep. So people with this disorder might have very vivid and long dreams that kind of last longer than usual overnight. Insomnia is a disorder where it's very difficult to sleep or get the full sleep cycle. They might, wake up and go back to bed several times throughout the night, or they might not be able to sleep for a few, hours or so at the beginning of the evening, for example. Narcolepsy is kind of the opposite. This is when we randomly fall asleep. So basically, we might be in mid-conversation with somebody and they can slowly doze off in front of us. Now, don't get this confused with somebody who's just exhausted and tired. This is unwanted and, throughout the day at random sporadic times to the point where somebody is completely asleep within a few seconds. REM behavior disorder is a disorder where we physically act out our dreams. So if we're running and kicking in our dreams, we might actually be moving, rolling around, and kicking while we're sleeping. So this could be something that could be a little bit of an issue, especially if you share a bed with somebody, for example, because you might actually wind up kicking them. Somnambulism is the sleepwalking kind of disorder where you might be very active during that non-REM 3. You might walk around a lot during sleepwalking. You might talk in your sleep. You might do different daily routine activities during this kind of sleepwalking stage. Now, this could be a little bit dangerous because, you might not be in full control while you're sleepwalking. So you might accidentally, leave a door open or go outside, or, you just have to be careful with sleepwalking. Night terrors, they're not really nightmares, but they're frequent bouts of screaming and thrashing, typically for little kids while they're sleeping. Out of the blue, they might start screaming and rolling around. It's difficult to wake them up with this disorder. And when they do wake up, they're usually sweating, panicking, but they don't exactly remember what dream or what might have caused them to feel like this. They just wake up in this very distressed state. And then sleep paralysis is when we wake up during the dream state of REM and we're unable to move. Now, the reason for this is because your brainstem is closed, which prevents signals to go to your muscles. You don't want to be running in real life if you're running in your dreams, for example. It's the body trying to protect us. But if we wake up during this state, we might not have our brainstem open up in time, and we might wake up with the inability to move our arms and legs. Now, that can cause anxiety and stress, which can cause negative impacts in the body. And the well-reported kind of symptoms of like hallucinations is because we're in that dream REM state. So our mind is more susceptible to making these types of, hallucinations or visuals. And then we have our 3 dream theories that we want to talk about today. Our first one, when it comes to kind of identifying dreams and the meaning behind them, would be the symbolism dream theory. This is a psychoanalytical Freudian style that isn't shared as commonly today, but for a long time was kind of one of the big theories of dreams. This is the idea that our dreams show us symbolisms for suppressed anxieties or traumas, things about the future, or maybe omens for it as well. Basically, this theory says that the things in your dreams symbolize feelings, emotions, and experiences that we've had throughout life. Now, the 2 more scientific ones we want to lean on is the activation synthesis dream theory and the consolidation dream theory. Here's the difference. The activation synthesis theory is the idea that your dreams are nothing more than random neural static. your brain's kind of misfiring these random kind of static shocks, and our brain tries to make the randomness into a dream. Now, that might be why our dreams are completely weird sometimes and odd, because it's just random things kind of thrown together. And then consolidation dream theory is the idea that our dreams are there to help us process and store memories and experiences in our day-to-day life. So we might have memories on things that we did that day, or that week, or that month, for example, and those are the things that are played inside our mind during our dreams to help us kind of lock that into our long term. All right, well, that's it for this unit. We went over why do we sleep, what is sleep. We talked about the sleep cycle. We talked about the different stages and the visuals on EEGs, disorders when it comes to sleep, and then we also talked about the 3 major dream theories. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this will help you with your test as we continue finishing up Unit 1, the biology of psychology. Have a good one.